Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu salam ala Rasulullah. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Jawahir al-Quran wa Durr, the jewels of the Quran and Spears. And we are still reading from Surah Ghafir. We have read part of the story of Prophet Moses with the Pharaoh. Peace. And we'll continue inshallah at where we have reached in the story is the Pharaoh asking Haman to build him a tower so that he may see God ultimately. And this we will explain once we read these verses. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقال فرعون يا هامان ابن لي صرحا لعلي أبلغ الأسباب. So the Pharaoh ordered Haman So the Pharaoh said, O Haman, build me a high tower so I may reach the pathways. أسباب السماوات فأطلع إلى إله موسى وإني لأظنه كاذبا وكذلك زين لفرعون سوء عمله وصد عن السبيل وما كيد فرعون إلا في تباب. The pathways from the previous verse 36. أسباب السماوات leading up to the heavens, and look for the God of Moses, although I am sure he is a liar. And so Pharaoh's evil deeds were made so appealing to him that he was hindered from the right way. But the plotting Pharaoh was only in vain. So there is a challenge that the presence of the Prophet Moses posed to the Pharaoh and of course to the Egyptians, that since he's calling them to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it means that the Pharaoh himself is not God, but he divinized himself. He promoted himself as God, and the fact there are so many things that how one can read these couple of verses. The fact that he wanted to see, to verify, it means that he is not sure of his position. That's number one. Had he been God, he would not have attempted to verify what Prophet Moses, the message of Prophet Moses about God, about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When the Pharaoh said, وَإِنِّي لَأَظُنُّهُ كَاذِبًا, although I am sure he is a liar, it's probably more accurate to say, I think he's a liar. Probably he's a liar. He's not sure. And number 3 is that he wanted to verify the existence of God through seeing, going up the stairs to, no matter how high the tower is, That's not how you basically uh, verify the existence of God. There are many people who would consider only as truth if it is something that they could check in the lab. If it exists in three-dimensional forms, then yes. If it does not exist, if it's not something that could be verified in the lab, where you repeat your experiment so that you could get the same results, then it does not exist. This reminds me of a philosophical movement, if you will, called logical positivism. It adopted this position only if scientifically you could verify something, then it is true. And this means that even without the issue of belief, that all the things that we use, and all the spiritual language, the language of love, anything that, even the way you describe a flower, if it's poetic, then it's not real. You can verify in the lab, experiment. You can dissect a flower or an animal, but you cannot be poetic. It does not relay any truth. While the signs in the universe, what did the Pharaoh create, for example? God is the uh, originator, the creator, the sustainer of this universe. So, what did the Pharaoh do as because he claims to be God? But it's something that he did also to bluff his community, his people, that he was doing something. But that's something, that tower, that sarh, some people say it's a palace. It's more of a tower, a structure, bluffing the people that here I am, I verified there is no one out there. The thing is, if he could see something, then it cannot be God. It's obvious. ليس كمثله شيء. Nothing is like unto him. And he cannot basically exist in three-dimensional forms. If you, and this is why human beings cannot be God. Not God incarnate, not being of the same substance with God as in the Trinity. The whole thing about the Nicene convention. So the plotting of the Farah was in vain. It would backfire, of course. People would realize immediately. And the issue is, it's not only about the ancient Egyptians who lived at the time of the Pharaoh, and not all of them, because we have in more than one instance, we have this person who's a believer, and he would say وقال الذي آمن يا قوم اتبعون أهدكم سبيل الرشاد يا قوم إنما هذه الحياة الدنيا متاع وإن الآخرة هي دار القرار من عمل سيئة فلا يجزى إلا مثلها ومن عمل صالحا من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فأولئك يدخلون الجنة يرزقون فيها بغير حساب ويا قوم ما لي أدعوكم إلى النجاة تدعونني إلى النار تدعونني لأكفر بالله وأشرك به ما ليس لي به علم وأنا أدعوكم إلى العزيز الغفار لا جرم أن ما تدعونني إليه ليس له دعوة في الدنيا ولا في الآخرة وأن مردنا إلى الله وأن المسرفين هم أصحاب النار فستذكرون ما أقول لكم وأفوض أمري إلى الله إن الله بصير بعباده. So what did he say, this believer? And the man who believed urged his people, those, "O my people, follow me and I will lead you to the way of guidance." So we do have Sabil, we have Sirat al-Mustaqim, we have ادعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة الموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن. So subul, and do not follow these subul that would lead you astray. There is one straight path and there are many other paths that would lead you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, would lead you away from success. And where you are right now is either because you were born into it or because you have studied, because you have verified. And time and again, if it's man made, do not worship it. If it is someone who's really like you, flesh, don't worship this person. If it's a totem, if it's a, don't. Uh, يا قوم إنما هذه الحياة الدنيا متاع وإن الآخرة هي الدار القرار. O my people, this worldly life is only a fleeting enjoyment. It's an enjoyment, of course. It's a fleeting. It's a. It's passing. Every single moment brings you closer to the end of this life. This is time, and again, this is not pessimistic. It's very realistic. One should be. One should remember always that there is a term. There is an end, and it could come out of a sudden. It's an enjoyment, and the Prophet ﷺ in the Hadith asks us to remember death, the destroyer of pleasures. It's not that it's prohibited to have some enjoyment or pleasure. It's about not having pleasure and enjoyment and entertainment as a way of life. You cannot entertain yourself. Of course, there are people who do that. They entertain themselves all the way to the grave. They cannot really face reality. Headphones, blasting music. They would like to party day and night, and what a big loss. No hedonistic life. This is really remembering death. It urges you to have a balanced balance. No, this is not really dividing half and half. Being moderate, so that you'll contribute, so that you will give. What's your legacy? It cannot be your legacy. Your legacy cannot be basically you have watched this game and attended this party and you went on this vacation and you sell your house and you go on a cruise for many years. And in fact there are people who The moment they retire, they don't know what to do with their time. Aimless. Whereas the hereafter is truly the home of settlement, وإن الآخرة دار القرار, the final abode. من عمل سيئة فلا يجزى إلا مثلها. Whoever does an evil deed will only be paid back with its equivalent. ومن عمل صالحا من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فأولئك يدخلون الجنة يرزقون فيها بغير حساب. And whoever does good, whether male or female, and is a believer, they will enter paradise, where they will be provided for without limit. And whoever does good, there is always room to do good. There are always, it could be as simple as donating to a soup kitchen, volunteering at a soup kitchen, or something larger than this. Being in the executive office, planning to eliminate poverty from your country. Better than this, thinking about the welfare of all people around the globe. Fewer in the north, more in the south. Doing good. Physicians Without Border. There is always room to do something good. The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, إذا قامت القيامة في يد أحدكم فسيلة فاستطاع ألا تقوم حتى يغرسها فليغرسها أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. So the hadith is if the day of judgment unfolds and one of you has a seedling in his hand, if he could plant it before the day of judgment really becomes overwhelming, then he should. To whom you are planting, when is the day of judgment? It is doing one more good deed, your last minute. And if, of course, we understand this. If it's not the day of judgment, it is in this life, before the end of your own life, before your last day, for your last minute. And the seedling, of course, any fruit tree, for example, that you plant, as an example, whoever eats from this fruit tree will be a good deed for you. And that includes even animals and birds and insects. Yes, I was next to a man from Bethlehem. He was planting a tree, a fruit tree, and when he finished planting the tree, he made a dua, a supplication. Extremely beautiful. He said, he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to feed us from this tree and the birds, he said. والطير. So he was thinking about birds potentially eating from that tree and this being a good deed. And this is really the Islamic worldview. We care about animals, we care about human beings. Every human being. and we think about feeding the Muslim and the non-Muslim. But to be able to this, we need to be free from the whims of the leaders of the free world, as they call themselves, world powers. وَيَا قَوْمِ مَا لِي أَدْعُوكُمْ إِلَى النَّجَاةِ تَدْعُونَنِي إِلَى النَّارِ. O my people, how is it that I invite you to salvation while you invite me to the fire, to hellfire? The way of the Pharaoh is a way that leads to hellfire. The way of the prophets, based on revelation, that way leads to success, leads to paradise. تدعونني لأكفر بالله وأشرك به. تدعونني لأكفر بالله وأشرك به ما ليس لي به علم وأنا أدعوكم العزيز الغفار. You invite me to disbelieve in Allah and associate with Him what I have no knowledge of, while I invite you to the Almighty, most forgiving. لا جرم أن ما تدعونني إليه ليس له دعوة في الدنيا ولا في الآخرة وأن مردنا إلى الله وأن المسرفين هم أصحاب النار. There is no doubt that whatever you invite me to worship, whatever you invite me to, of course, the context is about worship, whatever idol you invite me to worship, is not worthy to be invoked, either in this world or the hereafter. What would these idols do? So, without a doubt, whatever gods you are calling me to worship have no claim to divinity in this world or the hereafter. And they cannot help themselves, they don't need to, in the sense of these are idols: stone, steel, wood, clay. What did Prophet Moses do to the golden calf after he and his community, the children of Israel, were saved? After he split the sea and crossed to the other side, and the sea engulfed the Pharaoh and his soldiers. Once they were on the other side, rather than being grateful to God, they asked his people asked him to create an idol for them. They saw the other communities having idols. A very very strange position. So when he went to meet with his Lord, the Samiri is the Quranic story. He took their jewels, their gold, and he fashioned for them a calf with allowing the wind to blow through the calf, creating a sound, obviously like the sound of calves. And and they worshipped it. When Prophet Moses returned, he was so furious. The end of the story, there are many details there. How he, of course, his brother Prophet Aaron was taking care of the community, but he could not really stop them. He wanted to keep the unity of the community. But Prophet Moses destroyed the golden calf. He burnt it and he destroyed it, and he um, threw it in the sea. Had they had even one uh, iota of understanding, they would know that this idol is not worthy of worship. So whatever you invite me to worship is not worthy to be invoked, or they have no claim to divinity. In both cases, undoubtedly, our return is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَأَنَّ مَرَدَّنَا إِلَى اللَّهِ. And the transgressors will be the inmates of fire, the hellfire. فَسَتَذْكُرُونَ مَا أَقُولُ لَكُمْ. You remember what I say to you. وَأُفَوِّضُ أَمْرِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. And I entrust my affairs to Allah. Surely Allah is all-seeing of all His servants. فَسَتَذْكُرُونَ مَا أَقُولُ لَكُمْ وَأُفَوِّضُ أَمْرِي إِلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ بَصِيرٌ بِالْعِبَادِ. فوقاه الله سيئات ما مكروا وحاق بآل فرعون سوء العذاب. So Allah protected him from the evil of their schemes, and Pharaoh's people were overwhelmed by an evil punishment. The context now is that they have died, and they do see they were exposed to the fire, and I will explain. النار يعرضون عليها غدوا وعشية ويوم تقوم الساعة أدخلوا آل فرعون أشد العذاب. So they were exposed to the fire, meaning after their death, their souls were exposed to the fire day and night, morning and evening. And on the day, the hour will be established, the day of judgment, it will be said, admit the Pharaoh's people into the harshest punishment of hell. Of course, of hell, the harshest punishment, which means that they يعرضون عليها. This is in their graves, and in the between their death and the day of the resurrection, they see their place and they see the punishment in hellfire. But the and that's a punishment in itself. If someone is waiting for punishment and it's imminent, that's part of the punishment. The psychologically they do they suffer. But punishment in hellfire, that's after the day of judgment. It is body and soul, in a way that is appropriate for an eternal life. Even those who are destined to paradise, it is body and soul. Imam Al-Ghazali, rahimahullah, and we will end with this, inshallah. Imam Ghazali, in his critique of the philosophers, the Hafid philosopher, he addressed 20 issues. 17 he rendered as bid'ah, and 3 of them he said that anyone who, of course, adopts any such position is an unbeliever. One of these 3 issues is denying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala resurrects the bodies. So on the day of judgment, people will be coupled, their soul will be coupled with its own body. So with this, inshallah, we conclude this particular session, and we will begin with verse 47, inshallah, at the beginning of the next session. Until then, subhanakallah wa hamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.